lose is definitely not because you made mistakes, but because your opponent's race is a little bit better. I think we've all flip-flopped between races at some point at the beginning of playing StarCraft, but it is fun. There's actually been quite a few players lately that have been playing multiple races, and yeah, Lemon being one of them.
That there have, and with that, we are going to get things kicked off here, because we have spawning up at the top left for Little Fairy. It is Nice in the red.
And his opponent, all the way in the opposite corner of Oceanborn for this best of 3 series, we have none other than Lemon. Mapu, of course, controlling the camera as well, hiding in the background.
Yes.
Yesterday, he also observed all of the games, which was really lovely.
Huge thank you to Mapu, taking a massive weight off of our shoulders. We like to think we're good observers, but you know, we're coping a little bit. That's why we bring in the pros.
Well, it's one of those things, especially when it's like a long day, right? It's very easy. I noticed this with my own observing. It's very easy to, for example, miss a Widowmine drop that determines the entire game, right? Like, there's those moments that you just completely miss on camera, especially when you're live for a long while. And having a dedicated observer certainly does make all of that a little bit easier.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I mean, I've missed some things that are pretty inexcusable to miss. Like I'll get distracted in the first 2 minutes of a game and be like, oh, what's the Terran doing with their gas right now? Like, oh, you know, they're mining their minerals. I can see they're boosting their minerals. And then like while that's happening, or I'll like get distracted by a build, like the Reaper will show up at the Zerg's base and start killing, you know, Lings. And then it kills 2 Lings, and I'm like, oh, the Reaper has 2 kills. That's good news for them. Like,
it's all right. It happens. I notice it especially with like Zerg versus Protoss, because Zerg versus Protoss, usually the first 4 minutes, and the key word in that sentence is usually, right? The first 4 minutes are very predictable, but yeah, sometimes I guess players do like to mix it up, and if you're on autopilot a little too much, it can get a bit messy.
Yeah, it certainly can. And speaking of mixing things up a little bit here, we've got Nice with the fake proxy pylon, just trying to force out a response from Lemon. Lemon not really taking the bait too much. He's looking around for potential proxies, but he's not too worried. Oh, now this is a funny thing that can happen in PvP. This is...
They're both trying to outsmart each other, right? But they're doing it in the exact same location on the map, but neither of them realizes that they've done it. So it's funny for us, but for them, they don't really notice it anytime soon.
No, and it does look like it might be... So we do have a 3rd gate coming up from Lemon in the main base. I don't think we're going to see a 4th gate on location, but there will be an opportunity to get a little bit aggressive with this.
Nice is going to scout it, though. He actually sees it right now as he just ran a probe into the opponent's main base. So Nice knows exactly what he's playing against at this point, which is really nice for... It's one of the downsides of having a nickname that's a word you use frequently. It's like when Time used to go by the nickname Time, you don't realize how frequently you use the word Time until you're casting Time. The same situation here with Nice.
It's exactly that. It is exactly that. It's quite a nuisance. We do have that new sentry with its fresh coat of paint coming on in here. There is going to be a couple of Adepts trying to shade into the main base. I wonder if he will commit. He is going to go for it, but yeah, the risk of force fields made that a little bit dangerous. And he gets a pylon, but that's not really... Is that really worth it for what he lost?
No.
I don't think so.
No, he's also not really making use of that 3rd gateway just yet, right? So obviously he's just stacking up here and doing all of the... what we consider to be conventional moves for this particular matchup, but he's not really getting a lot of value just yet out of that additional gateway here, so that also does slow you down ever so slightly. I mean, the differences are, of course, quite small. They're not really gonna, you know, make that big of a difference at this point in time, but it all adds up, especially when you're both pretty much playing the same units. One thing, though, that Lemon does have going for himself right now is a much faster blink upgrade. So we have the Twilight Council on the production tab as well for Nice, but it's gonna be a while until that finishes.
Yeah, that is something. So I really like Lemon's setup in general, even though the attack didn't work out with the double Adept. It was an attack that had high potential upside. He is, of course, going to lose this pylon, but he's got enough supply to not be supply blocked right now. And the 3 gate could have given him opportunities. Like, this was not a Obviously, it didn't work out particularly well, but because he teched quickly behind it, because his Nexus was still well-timed, this is not a bad situation for Lemon at all. And I might even maybe prefer his situation, at least in terms of potential play. Now, we'll see if he can actually get anything done with this blink timing. And if he doesn't, I mean, Nice's Nexus is quicker, but there is some real potential.
Immediately goes into a Dark Shrine as well after getting rid of that hallucinated Phoenix. Now, we already were talking about the Sentry a little bit ago. The Sentries are just a more popular unit, and even though it's just a bit stronger overall and a little bit more sturdy, that also means that you're going to have more hallucinated Phoenixes flying around the map. Scouting in general, usually quite tricky for Protoss. Protoss usually doesn't have quite as much vision out on the map as, well, especially compared to, for example, Zerg, but also compared to Terran, it can be quite difficult to figure out exactly what's happening. So scouting that your opponent has a Dark Shrine already about halfway done is very, very good here for Lemon. Then again, though, of course, this is a pretty standard transition in this matchup, right? We see it very frequently, but he instead decides to go into charge.
Yeah, the Dark Shrine these days is not that expensive, so I don't hate the play, but I do like the response from Lemon right here. He is going to be going for, as you said, that charge. Very quick 4th Nexus, which feels very bold, but as long as you don't probe it up and you kind of match your opponent's production, match your opponent's economy, it just acts as like a potential gateway, which is a weird thing to say because, of course, gateways exist in the game, but it acts as a potential gateway towards the late game. Now, we are going to see Nice popping into the natural with a couple of Stalkers. It is just a 2-gas setup for the moment. Very, look at that. Cute. Gets one probe, gets out, doesn't really lose anything, and tests his opponent pretty solidly.
Yeah, plus he distracted 5 Stalkers there, right? So that's definitely... It's one of those things that's very APM intensive, but definitely worth it. Now, speaking of APM intensive things, now suddenly there's a bunch of invisible dudes inside of the main base causing some havoc, and we at the meantime also, or in the meantime, we have a push over here at the bottom. One of the sentries does get picked off. Can he get that Nexus? That Nexus started off a long time ago, so I don't think he's going to be able to snipe it. There's a lot of fighting going on over here, though, and it looks like Nice simply just has the superior Stalker count.
Yeah, just a few more units. That fight started off with about 8 force fields being cast in 2.5 seconds, and it ended up with not really either side gaining an advantage in that situation. Very interesting scenarios. The recall goes through. Now we have a counter recall. Ends up losing, I think, 3 Stalkers on that recall. Lemon obviously losing the 4th base, but with +1 weapons completing and that quick charge, the potential for a counterattack is very strong right now.
Absolutely. Lemon is going to go across the map. He knows that economically he's going to be a bit behind right now, to say the least. He does have that charge upgrade already done here, but it's going to finish up for Nice in just a moment, who's also going into Immortals. So Lemon does have slightly higher unit numbers at this point in time, but he needs to get something done as well, because he's going to fall behind economically with this 4th Nexus right now done here for Nice. It looks like Nice will be able to push all of this back. Immortals are going to be joining in this army too in just a moment. That's going to make these Stalkers and Zealots just noticeably weaker.
Yeah, this is kind of turned into a very strange situation because Nice was actually able to get away with a lot of probe production there. Obviously, he loses 5 probes on the, counterattack, but he holds his 4th Nexus, will enjoy that economic lead. However, Lemon will have this +2 timing that is going to once again swing. Right now, he's got an upgrade lead, but it's going to swing it again in his favor. It will come down a little bit to the complexities of the armies with the 2 Immortals. If they're shooting Stalkers of Lemon, it's obviously fantastic for Nice, but you do have to be super careful about taking a fight at any time when you're down in upgrades.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. There's a Prism moving towards the left side of the map, so Lemon hoping to maybe distract his opponent just a bit. Nice currently moving around at the 12 o'clock position. Here's those Zealots, and there is one photo cannon over here. Really confusing the AI, and look at the probes right there, turning their little tasers against the opponent too, and that actually trapped a bunch of the Zealots. Big warp into the main base! Okay, at least some of those Zealots did finish up. The Prism at this point is gone, and that really does make all of this so much trickier. In the meantime, Nice also defended on the right side of the map. Really well handled right here, not really running into a whole lot of issues at all.
That was a fantastic defense. That probe pull was perfect. It blocked 3 of the Zealots from hitting that cannon. And if he's even like 0.2 seconds later, I think all 4 Zealots are hitting the cannon. Sure, you can warp in, but it becomes a lot more complicated to defend. Now, we do have a Zealot run by on the top side getting completely caught out here. I think, yeah, I don't see any reason why Nice doesn't just chase this down. I guess he doesn't have map vision on the left side, so he's worried about the main army hitting and committing too many units. He's still going to run it down eventually. There's the recall to just save what he can, but Lemon is super far behind now. He was in a rough spot earlier, but now it's now we're like, okay, how do you possibly get out of this?
Yeah, so we were talking about the advantages he had earlier. He had an upgrade advantage, but that entire fight we saw took place before his +2 finished up, so he didn't really have any use of that advantage just yet. Now, currently there is only +1 done right here for Nice, but he's got so many units that I don't think it really matters. He could wait for maybe a half minute or so, but I think he's going to try and push the issue. Aggressive blink forward right here by Nice. He's going to be able to get rid of the opponent's Zealots very, very rapidly. And he's going to be able to target fire down that overcharged battery. And those Immortals are having a grand old time just shooting at whatever they can. Lemon is going to be cornered over here. He's warping in whatever is possible, but he simply does not have the numbers. And as long as those Immortals are alive, I mean, those Immortals are just, every time they fire, like a third of a Stalker dies, right? And they fire, well, they're tiptoeing around right now, but they're firing a lot.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of damage done. They're really making it so that Lemon can't kind of stick around. Because once those Immortals bring their firepower to bear, it's just too much. But I really think the turning point here was when that 4th base got sniped and Lemon wasn't able to do enough on the counter damage.
Yeah.
And from that point on, Nice kind of just never looked back. It was very comfortable, and he takes game 1.
Absolutely. Nice also showing some stellar defense at home. So obviously he managed to get the kill on his opponent's Nexus there, that 4th base going down seemingly pretty easy, but he lost quite a few units in the process too, especially when he had to recall on out of there. And then ultimately, he defended very nicely at home too, right? We brought up the probe micro there, but then also sniping that prism nice and quickly before the entire group of Zealots could finish warping in. Honestly, excellent game right there by Nice, not really running into a whole lot of issues. And yeah, that's the type of game where you're quite frustrated, I think, as Lemon, because it's not like you made like one ginormous blunder, right, and you just solved that in your second game, but it kind of feels like you got outplayed a little bit. What in the world do you do here if you're playing a normal macro game and it seems like you fall behind from, just the opponent playing slightly better in almost every way?
Yeah, it's definitely not a comfy situation to try and maneuver yourself out of. It did feel like there was some confidence he had moving around the map, but it feels like Nice is just so much more experienced in this matchup. As I did mention, Lemon, even though he's been a Protoss for a while now, he still was a Zerg for a lot of his professional career. And Nice has been around the block and back, you know, even though he hasn't always been the king of this region, with Haas being quite a thorn in his side pretty much forever. It's still been, it's still been a region that he's really been strong in, obviously.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's been Nice going up against Haas for many, many years right now. Nice, certainly one of the favorites. So far, he's looking good in the series, but game number 2 in his best of 3, we find ourselves on a brand new map. It's Golden Aura, and in the top left-hand corner, it's Lemon. Brand new for this series anyways, right?
Yeah, exactly. And spawning down on the bottom right for Little Fairy, it is Nice. In the red. And we are going to see what happens here on Golden Aura, as you mentioned. It is one of these maps that survived the axe, the great culling of the of the map pool. It's
about 50% of them did not make the cut, but apparently Golden Aura was strong enough to survive.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's that gold base. It's that beautiful aesthetic. It's the fact that you can't harm a player who takes 3 bases if they really decide you're not going to harm them. They can set up pretty strongly.
Really, you used the word beautiful there. I feel like the maps we have in modern StarCraft 2 are actually all very good looking. It's a funny thing to bring up, but we've kind of gotten used to it. But back in the day, the maps sometimes just looked a little bit plain. I feel like map makers have really been doing a phenomenal job over the last couple of years, especially just making these maps look very distinct. I remember when we first saw the maps getting decorated, for example, I remember it was this map called Acolyte. And I couldn't see my own units very well on that map. Like, the contrast was so high and everything was so dark that I just couldn't really distinguish which units were mine. So I feel like, yeah, the maps are nice and bright. They look good. They're decorated properly. I really think we're a little spoiled in that regard. Nobody really discusses that all too often, but... Ooh, are we not using the second gateway? Okay, he starts up the Stalker right now.
Yeah, it looks like Lemon was not beside the gateway at that exact moment, I think. So Nice taking advantage of that and says, okay, yeah, we're going to proxy a Twilight Council. I don't need to bother, you know, fooling you, so to speak. And he set the table with this in the first game with that fake proxy pylon. Now he goes for a real proxy pylon. But is this going to be Blink? Is this going to be DT Shrine? We will see. He doesn't have the gas yet to make that choice. Probe is getting chased down, but inevitably will suffer the suffer that death. Oh, yeah.
That's a cheeky little scout. This guy coming all the way from the left side of the map decides to just go straight into the main base. And he can start counting pylons, right? It's okay, well, he should have gone a little further, I guess, if he really wanted to start counting pylons. But yeah, just knowing that that's the problem in PvP, right? Even if you do see, hey, there's only 2 pylons where I expected there to be 3 at this point in time, it doesn't really tell you the full story, like what we saw in the previous game where, yeah, just planting a bunch of pylons around the map is already something that can just catch your opponent off guard a little bit. But luckily here for Lemon, it isn't something super aggressive in the sense of Dark Templar. It's just going to be that Blink Stalker research, but he will still have to respect it.
Oh. And there is a third gateway coming in from Nice, so we could see a strong aggressive push. It looks like, yeah, he got scouted with that first pile, and he's like, oh, okay, you know, yeah, you're right, jig's up, haha, I'm totally giving up on this. We are going to see this Twilight Council actually being scouted, but by this point, it's... Well, Lemon fortunately already has the correct tech to deal with this because he did go for a very quick robo. And that's going to let him know... Well, maybe he can start up an extra shield battery with that extra little bit of time that he has, or that extra little bit of information, but he's just got to hold. That's his MO right now, just hold.
Yes. Nice is going for a 1-base all-in. Lemon has decided that he needs that expansion to stay alive, of course. I am with you, though. Adding on another shield battery might not be a terrible choice. He's currently got 1 right over here. He is going into Immortals. Those are very expensive units, but if he can get that second one out, it is going to make life for him significantly easier. But obviously, there's always that moment where Nice can just jump on top of everything using that Blink research, and he can, well, shut them down in a heartbeat. So here we go. Oh, don't bleed out a Stalker before the fight begins.
Ooh, good force fields right there. Going to protect the Immortal. It does get tagged, but that is a lot of dead Stalkers for Nice there to come in here. How many? Yeah, that was 4 Stalkers going down for Nice to the 3 and a Sentry of Lemon. Now, I need to point out, Lemon is still building probes. That is crazy right now. He could have 2 more shield batteries, 3 more shield batteries. He is going so ham with this. We are going to see the blink in coming on, and there's the battery overcharge. Oh, and there's no way. Yeah, that's instantly going to be a GG. Oh, man. Well done.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. He could have like 10 workers ago, right? Maybe sitting at like low 30s would have made that game a little bit more comfortable, but he didn't even need it. Like, you know, it's a rough game when you go for the aggressive blink forward. It's like your last ditch effort, and you don't actually have enough Stalkers to kill, you know, against even just a regular shield battery to kill one of those Immortals. Then the battery overcharge comes in and you realize, yeah, there's really no way to do it. But Nice had to pull a rabbit out of a hat there. He decided to give it a try, but yeah, his alternative, I guess, was making a Nexus and going all the way back home, but he would fall so far behind against that eco there from Lemon. So it does mean that our first series here is going to be a series that will go to game number 3, Steadfast.
Yeah, that was not super common necessarily for you guys yesterday. So yeah, it definitely, nice, definitely makes some nice changes. I think it's nice to start off with a, you know, longer form match. I will say that was a little bit of a weird build from Nice to go for, like particularly on Golden Aura. But with the quick blink, maybe he was just hoping that Lemon would open up with a quick Twilight Council of his own. Because if Lemon opens up Twilight Council or Stargate or basically anything that's not quick Immortals, it's going to be a really difficult defense.
Absolutely. Then again, I guess he was 1-0 ahead in this series, right? So he had a little bit of wiggle room. Maybe he had a read on his opponent, and he figured he could just, well, catch him off guard with this very quick Stalker opener. Lemon clearly was well prepared against it. And yeah, he didn't scout it until quite late, but luckily for him, he had already put down the Robo facility. So if you're already almost like rock, paper, scissors, right? You go for your correct build order, and you get a little bit lucky. Yeah, sometimes you just happen to have those Immortals in the Protoss versus Protoss matchup, and they helped him out quite a bit. In case you're just now tuning in, we're doing 4 best of 3s for the Asian server, and then we're doing 8 as well for the European region. So, not a StarCraft 2 coming your way. This is just the very first best of 3 of the day. Gonna be doing 12 here in total. So, our first series of the day is immediately gonna go to game 3.
That it is. And I'm interested to see, because I don't think we're going to see Nice going for anything ultra aggressive once again, but time will tell.
Alrighty.
And, oh, yeah, go for
find
it.
Ourselves. Oh, yeah, okay. So spawning right here in the top right-hand corner of Ghost River, playing with the blue Protoss pieces, we have Lemon.
And his opponent spawning up at the top left for Little Fairy. It is Nice. In the red.
Okay. Ghost River, of course, one of the new maps. Luckily for us, the new maps have been played a lot so far in this tournament. So, obviously, this is for a significant prize pool, right? This entire tournament and all of the regionals, all of it has a very substantial prize pool. And even though we've seen the new maps played quite a bit in the smaller online cups, where a couple $100 is on the line, I'm very excited to see that we also have the maps being played a lot in the larger tournaments. Because that was one of the concerns that I saw one of the referees actually talk about yesterday. It's like, yeah, we've been seeing him in the online cups, the smaller events, but what about the premier tournaments, right? What about the major tournaments? Will we still see the new maps pop up as frequently? And so far, the answer, yeah, is certainly... Yeah, it's certainly yes. We've seen this map a whole lot. We've seen all of the new maps a whole lot. And it's funny because they're very different than the other maps that were already around in the previous map pool too. It looks like, yeah, we've taken one additional step in the crazy direction when it comes to map design. And I'm all for it. It's been an absolute blast to see these maps develop. So Ghost River in particular, very, very quick air-to-air rush distance. And especially a little bit later on when you destroy the rocks, the ground-to-ground distance also is very, very rapid. It does seem like it's a bit different though overall because you only have 1/3 base option. A lot of maps these days have like 2, sometimes even 3 locations where you can build the third. On this map, you don't really have that as a feature, so we'll have to see what the players have prepared.
Yeah, I want to make one small correction there, Loco. You said we took one step towards crazy maps. I feel like we took a giant leap. Like, I feel like we
can take another leap for me, man. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it was big. Like, there's so many crazy maps after such a like, quote-unquote, normal map pool. With Post-Youth feels really wild. Amphion with that gold bases and the natural, like, even Ghost River, I think, is pretty... considering the current state of SC2 and that, like, there's only 6 bases, that's pretty out there. You know? Yeah. Like... Yeah, and even Amphion. Actually, the obsession this time seems to be minerals. Mineral patches that you can mine out. That seems to be the new hotness.
But also just, just a few years ago, having top left versus top right would have been crazy. Not like diagonally symmetry. Like that is not really something we ever saw just a few years ago. And it's been fun to see the different maps develop because ultimately you have to adjust your strategies. Even if it's just slight. I feel like Crimson Court, for example, is a really good example of a solid macro map with a couple of twists. The players have been vetoing them, right? So considering we now have 9 maps, they could have very well vetoed this one, but they decided not to.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it all depends on what kind of madness you want to embrace, I guess, a little bit right here. As we do have this 4-stalker pressure coming in, it is going to find a little bit of nuisance value. Sentry is, of course, going to stay alive thanks to that shield battery. And ultimately,
it's also actually dishing out some damage. It's funny because you almost... I still look at these fights and almost disregard the Sentry damage entirely, but it's putting in some work against those shields.
Well, and the interesting thing, too, is that it actually gets... Oh, hold that thought. Oracle? No, it's going to get deflected. Nice job. The interesting thing is that Nice's micro almost... It empowers the sentry because he wants the shielded units to be the ones taking damage. So therefore, the sentry is burning the shields quicker. Like he's actually, by microing and pulling back the stalkers as they lose shields, he's actually increasing the sentry's damage output. Oracle, though, does actually get a lot of damage on that little run by 4 probes. Is nothing to shake a stick at.
Absolutely not. Keeping those oracles alive is also critical, and so far he's managed to do exactly that. There's a Dark Shrine on the back of this, and for Lemon, he does have a robo facility, so he should get some solid detection out, but it's one of those things where, yeah, margin for error is absolutely tiny. If you're not prepared against it, and a few Dark Templars slip in, and you lose another 4 workers, or 8 workers, or sometimes an entire mineral line worth, it can just be game over immediately. Then again, though, Lemon is going to go straight into the 3rd Nexus here. A very predictable location here, at the very least, for Nice, who is going to be able to start putting on some pressure on that 3rd Nexus here in just a moment, using those Stalkers.
This was a little bit interesting. Lemon actually prioritized 2 Immortals over the Sentry, not Sentry, over the Observer there. Will miss the Stalkers, by the way. This is going to get a little bit weird. 6 Stalkers, I don't think, can force a cancel on this Nexus. Oh, Oracle flying by. Oh my god, no way that just lived. No way. That was... that Oracle pilot had like 3 lucky rabbit feet.
You think there's a pilot inside of the Oracle? No way. I feel like it's probably remotely controlled. I don't even know how to... I don't know how Protoss does anything, but maybe there's a little pilot in there.
Is it doesn't like the Void something? Isn't that Zeratul personal ship? Oh my god, the blink forward in on top of this. This is very bold from Nice. I do not like it one bit. Guardian Shield and the force fields just crush that army. I think Lemon's about to take this series, maybe.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. He is looking dominant here. We have a Dark Templar transition, and even though he didn't rush out that Observer, he still has one in the mix, and that's honestly the most important thing. Now, there are a couple Dark Templar going across the map, but they're gonna have to put in a ton of work. Oracle goes back around again. You know what? This might not be over yet. Lemon does certainly have the more powerful army, but he doesn't currently have any detection at home. So there's one Observer. That one is, well, with his main army. There's no Photon Cannon, obviously. He didn't open up Oracles, so he's got no vision, and that's gonna cost him dearly. He decides to just continue fighting, by the way. All right, I like it, but it's very risky.
There's no reason to stop fighting right here. There's only 1 shield battery in the natural. Your opponent just lost so much stuff. He's going to kill a gateway. Probes are going to pull into this. There are force fields available, and he should be able to just kind of section some of these units off. I love the warping of Zealots. Blinking forward, grabs the War Prism. Very nice force field right there. Going to allow the Zealots to really go to town. Nice did lose the 3rd Nexus during all this, and he is losing probes, so even if he holds at this point, Lemon is actually way ahead economically.
You're absolutely right. Getting a lot of damage done. 17 additional probes have gone down. It looks like the Dark Templar on the other side of the map have been dealt with as well. It gets very chaotic. He was trying to micro that Observer and make sure that it didn't get sniped, because then suddenly defensive Dark Templar become an issue too, but... yeah, very well handled right there by Lemon, all things considered. Losing that Oracle was super painful, though. If Nice would have been able to keep that one alive, I think it, would have been able to deal a lot more damage, but, well, I don't think Nice really has the units for it anymore. He's a full base behind on his opponent right now. There's not enough workers to properly saturate it, but Nice needs to get something done, and I am not 100% sure what he could even do here.
Neither am I. I'm impressed that he's still in this game, honestly. I do think a little bit of that is Lemon maybe being like, not knowing what to do, not expecting Nice to make that very bold and not, honestly, kind of disastrous move that he made, where he blinked in on top of the army. And it was one of those things where you're like, oh my god, okay, what do I do now? And he wasn't as decisive as he could have been. Nice, another very aggressive YOLO. 6 Stalkers kind of just getting thrown away right here. Lemon ready with the trap, will kill that last Stalker before it can escape. And, I mean, I guess Nice needed to do something bold, but that was not it. After losing a lot and falling behind economically, losing 6 Stalkers is not going to do him any favors.
Nope. I think he's the favorite going into this series, but sometimes the underdog can get it done. Lemon, a name that not everybody is going to be familiar with, is taking down one of the best and most competitive players from the region, it looks like. Here's Lemon going in for what will likely be the final attack in this series. Aggressive link forward. He's going to be able to get rid of that shield battery. Very nicely handled here. I mean, yeah, the Immortal, it's going to need to kill basically 7 Stalkers in order for it to be justified, and that's never going to happen. Very impressive stuff right here by Lemon. I mean, Nice made a bunch of errors. Remember also the Oracle control was not quite as good. He fired the Nexus a couple times. He then sent it across the opponent's main base too. Maybe that was like an all-army hotkey, I'm not sure, but yeah, Lemon handling himself very well under all of this pressure. And even though Nice is not ready to tap out just yet, I don't see a way out.
Yeah, no, there's absolutely nothing he could do at that